I'm Erica.
Hi, Erica.
I'm the president of Stratum. And I'll give you a little overview. Stratum is a web development company. We also do hosting. We've been around since 1998. I just started this spring. So to advance the slide, just mouse click. Oh, okay. So we're kind of a full service agency. Web development is really our bread and butter, but we also do digital marketing, SEO, PPC, programmatics, and we'll get to all that in a little bit. But what I really want you guys to know is that we're a small company and we like helping other small companies. So that means that we're really selective about the clients we pick, and we have just kind of a small roster of them right now, which means that everybody gets kind of specialized individual attention. So, got a lot of business owners in the room, a lot of entrepreneurs. How many of you have ever felt like in over your head when it comes to your web presence? Like you have a website, but you're kind of, like you get to like the ceiling and you're like, okay, this is above my pay grade. That's where Stratum comes in. We have, if you need a shopping cart, if you need help with your database, or maybe you find out that there's just something that you need your website to do that is beyond like the regular WordPress interface, call us. We're WordPress experts, that's kind of our wheelhouse, but we do have experience in other CMSs. So how many of you have competitors? Okay, search engine optimization can help you fight them on the internet. So basically, search engine optimization is the art of increasing your ranking on the Google search page. And everybody's goal should be to be on page 1, right? Because like nobody ever looks at page 2. So we have tools and tips and tricks to help increase your rankings on page 1. And that's always our goal. And it's, like fair warning, it's a long-term goal. You can't hire a company, like, if somebody calls you and says they can guarantee you anything in terms of SEO, they're lying and hang up the phone, because it's not a science and there are no guarantees. We can have goals, and the goal should always be to get you on page 1, but it takes a long time. I usually require our clients to sign up for a 6-month commitment, because that's how long it takes to kind of build that groundwork and earn that top spot. Okay, digital marketing. How many of you struggle with identifying your customers? Like maybe geographically where you need to be selling, what you need to be pushing, and you know what your customers look like, but you don't know how to find them. That's where I would come in. Digital advertising is kind of great compared to traditional media, because we can show you very specific data and return on investment. So whereas a TV or newspaper ad might say, oh, we can guarantee X number of impressions, or a certain amount of reach, they can't really say accurately how many eyeballs saw your ad. On the internet, we can. And I can give you a report every month showing the progress of your campaign and how successful it is. And we can track what we call conversions, which is when you define like an event with a user and say, I want this ad to drive people to a contact page, and I want the conversion to be them filling out a form. So I can measure how many people click submit on that form, and then every month I can tell you that number's growing, hopefully, fingers crossed. We can also target people at a really granular level. So like I was telling somebody earlier, if you want to target women ages 22 to 35 who live in Norfolk, who only listen to heavy metal, like I can serve you those. I can serve you that audience and give them that ad, and your heavy metal young lady business can thrive. Hosting is the least sexy part of my business, but has anyone ever experienced an outage on their website? That's a scary time.
404.
Yes, yeah. I have had clients who have been like hacked by Russians, and their website, like all the content, like all the pictures were there, but all the content was for advertisements for erectile dysfunction medication. And we got a very angry phone call. This was previously in my career at another agency, but their site was compromised, and time is money, and especially when you're dealing with like e-commerce and stuff, you can't afford to be down. So Stratum, because we have such a very like small roster of clients and not a lot of people on our server, we're able to maintain it and stay up to date on the latest patches and updates and plugins and stuff like that, and keep you secure. And in the event that something might happen, we can be highly responsive too, and make sure that you get back up online as quickly as possible.
Pretty ironic that the site that went up when that was down.
Good one, thank you. So today I'm just going to give you a couple like free tips and tricks that some of you may already know, but it's free, so bear with me. The first and one of the best things you can do is to claim your business on Google Maps, Google+, create a Google+ profile. It's really easy if you have like a brick and mortar location. So you go to google.com/maps, you click claim your business, you go through the steps, they'll send you a little verification, what's a doodle that you have to go through, and then 2 weeks later you have a Google+ profile. This is an example of someone who has claimed their profile, and you can see that's their location. So it helps with your SEO ranking. Google obviously favors people who have played their game, and they have a Google+ page, so they want to reward those businesses. And not only will you, so okay, backing up. Google search results. Top 3 spots are paid advertising. The ones below that are organic, free. And then you have more organic results over here on the right with the map. So if you can get featured on the map, that's awesome. And the only way you can get featured on the map is to claim your business. So do that. Yeah.
What if there's a business that's already, like there's multiple businesses in my building, and apparently I really wasn't able to.
Google hates that.
Yeah, I wasn't able, they weren't giving me like that profile based on there's already an existing main business, like mine's a truck stop, so it's multiple businesses.
So what I recommend doing is listing your business as, 1234 Main Street, Suite A.
Okay. Regardless if your address, your physical address doesn't have a suite number.
Tell Google you have a suite number and then they'll mail you a verification postcard to that number.
Okay.
Yeah, because that's happened before. A lot of, I was just working with some travel clients, a bed and breakfast association, and the B&Bs had that issue because they might have their overnight, the B&B, then a restaurant attached to the location, and that's what they're going to have to do for the 2 separate businesses. Yeah. The next best thing you can do to help your SEO is to collect reviews. So you guys are familiar with Yelp, maybe TripAdvisor, stuff like that. Those are great. Reviews are awesome, but the only reviews that Google cares about are Google reviews. So I encourage you to tell your customers, please review us on Google. And if you can incentivize that, all the better. If you can say you're shipping them a product, in the packing slip, you would say, thank you so much for your order. Please review us on Google for 5% off your next order, or something like that. Any little benefit you can throw to people, especially if, restaurants, it's super easy. Free dessert if you prove to us in 10 minutes that you reviewed our restaurant, stuff like that. So the more reviews you have, the heavier Google is going to weight your SEO score. So, if it's you versus a competitor and you have 10 awesome reviews and your competitor only has 1, you go higher than your competitor. And that's nice.
Is it true that Google, from a reviews perspective, is looking and they'll actually put in their own algorithm and say, you don't have enough reviews, so we're going to actually skew it one way or another?
I don't know about the quantity of reviews, but it sounds like you have heard something that you can, maybe you can drop some knowledge.
Stars, but we don't have a quantity number that they like, so they say we're at 4.6, even though we have 5 stars.
What? I think Google needs to check their math. That's just not how math works. I don't know. I don't know.
Might be the Russians.
Maybe you have a secret patent. No, they're all listed.
Are you sure you haven't missed one? Google's rarely wrong.
I'll show you.
Okay. we'll have a sidebar later. Okay. So leverage your social media. I originally made this presentation earlier today for some bed and breakfasts, and so I was telling them about how they could use it to increase their SEO rankings, because let's say somebody's searching for you, or they're searching for like a bed and breakfast in Norfolk. You will come up with lots of your competitors, but your Facebook page might also come up, and then your Instagram page might also come up. So those are just more ways to capture a little more real estate on that search results page. What's that?
So diversify.
Yeah, exactly. Another really cool thing that a lot of business owners are kind of afraid to use social media for is customer service. So if you have an upset customer who gives you a nasty tweet or posts a nasty message on your Facebook page, that should be an opportunity for you to address it head on. And if they are way off base, in the nicest way possible, call them out on it, but make that whole discourse public so that people can see what great customer service you provide. And if they're way off base, then everybody else reading will eventually see that as well, and they'll see how well you handled it too. So it really is an opportunity to put your best face forward. Yeah.
So if you have good customer service with like a really bad situation, let's say, you're at a bed and breakfast or something like that, right? Hotel, and the bathroom's covered in mold or something. Most people will post that publicly,
yeah,
because most people don't have enough, polite behavior to not
yeah.
do it publicly. So if, let's say, the business writes a positive review and deletes, how does that look on both sides, right? Like, as a business owner, do you leave up really nasty negative reviews and show that you have good customer service, or do you privately, what's the?
I think it's best practice to, if you can demonstrate a positive resolution at the end of that customer complaint, then yeah. If they are just never going to be satisfied no matter what you say, and the only reason they were even complaining is because they wanted you to refund their money, and like they actually had a good time but they're just lying and you know it, delete the review. But actually, I don't know if you can't delete reviews. You can delete like comments.
I think even for one-star review, let at least show other people that are reading your reviews that you made an effort.
Exactly. Yeah.
We'll try and make up for it. We can't. Sorry. You can at least try to make up for it.
Yeah, I think people will give you the benefit of the doubt, and most people are reasonable. And one thing to consider is that most people who are posting on social media are doing so to complain.
That's what Twitter's for.
Yeah, exactly. So that's. I think other users know that, and they take that into consideration. And very few people would be swayed by one negative review. If you only have negative reviews, then maybe you should check yourself. I don't know. So, this was a really cool example of a company or a brand using social media in a unique way. Rather than just posting content about their bed and breakfast and putting up photos of activities on their property, they actually went to their local tourism department. They posted content about Restaurant Week, and they were sharing other photos that their CVB had posted. And so they were really painting a picture of the experience you could have beyond their property. Because really what they have to do is they have to market themselves, but they also have to market the county that you're going to be visiting. So I thought that was really cool, and so I highlighted them in my little presentation earlier. Lastly, I want to encourage you to use your analytics. The basic message is just give people what they want. So you can look at your analytics, and it's kind of hard to see here, but the most frequently viewed pages for the Bed and Breakfast Association were, oh gosh, I can't even read it. I think it was like where to stay, and then special events in the areas, and specials and packages that people could use for like booking. And so that tells them those pages should be easily accessible in your top navigation from the home page. Don't hide that information. If that's in your top 10 list of pages, make sure it's really prominent and you're just like shouting it from the rooftops on your home page. Don't make people dig to find it. So, the whole idea with analytics is that it should inform the decisions you make in your navigation and on your home page. You don't want to bury the lead, so to speak. So, that's all I have to say about analytics. And again, I'm from Stratum. If you think there's anything we can help you with, I'd love to talk to you later. And I hope you guys learned something tonight and you're able to use that and apply it to your own businesses. Thank you. Oh, does anybody have any questions?
You answered them throughout.
Cool.
Actually, like, I have a question. I might be in the market for a service similar to yours in the next 3 or 4 months. As I look at 3 or 4 different places, what are some of the top 5 questions I need to have top of my list of things I need to ask to vet a couple of these?
A web developer?
Yeah, like web developer, SEO.
I would ask them, do you already have hosting lined up, or do you need a host too?
I've got kind of a shell of a website already, but I need it beefed up.
Okay.
And if it's a private, but I don't know.
No, so it's a really good question. I would ask them about usability. You know, what content management system or CMS are they using? They're probably going to say WordPress, which is cool, unless it's like an e-commerce thing, and that's a whole other conversation. But you want to make sure that it's not like, well, rule of thumb, I would advise people to avoid like proprietary CMSs, because a lot of times that's really difficult to use and you have to get like special training for it, and then if you ever want to move your website onto a different platform, it's going to be really expensive. So you want something that's kind of open source. Another thing to watch out for is, with a web developer, make sure that you own all your content. You don't want them to own your URL. You don't want them to own the designs or the content. So make sure that, like, in the contract, you get everything after you pay. Because if they own it and you want to leave, again, it becomes this protracted mess.
Hold you hostage.
Yeah, they'll hold you hostage.
And a lot of those big sites actually own content.
Yeah, so that's another one you should look out for. I would ask about hosting. I don't recommend hosting on Windows servers, because they're potentially less secure than Linux-based servers. And I can't think of 2 more tips, but give me your card and I'll email you.
We talk, yeah.
Okay.
Sure.
Yes?
So since like Google's constantly always reiterating their algorithms for SEO, like what are the best ways that, there's actually 2 parts, so that's sort of like half of part 1. The other half of it is, you know, you have people that are constantly using like risque or not legal techniques, but are constantly able to skirt around those sort of, you know, rules of that. So like, how do you constantly stay up on SEO techniques while still not doing something that's...
Hire somebody to do it for you. It would be a full-time job for a business owner to stay on top of all of Google's changes. Sorry, what were you going to say?
It's, I guess, like, how do you know that what the person that's doing is, you know, right or...
Yeah, that's tricky.
They promise you really amazing results, but then like 6 months later, all your backlinks get pulled because they didn't do it properly.
If they're making big promises, that's a red flag. If they start talking about inbound linking, that's a red flag, because that's not a thing anymore that people really do. Google doesn't care. I don't know. Yeah, I would say the biggest one is people who make like grand promises. Yeah, that's a really good question, and it is easy to kind of like talk the talk and obfuscate people and just kind of like confuse them until they give you a check.
It's like if you're hiring someone to do something that you don't know how to do. It's like if you go to your mechanic and you're like, hey, fix this, and he's like, oh, you need this, and you're like, well, I don't really know anything, so
yeah.
Okay.
It's like, to be honest, in that case, if you don't have the time and resources to really educate yourself, it's kind of a gamble. I would stay on top of them in terms of like monthly reporting and ask for that, just so you can see even incremental progress. And then when you're looking at those reports, ask the tough questions and say, you know, I've only risen 2 spots. How come I haven't risen 5? How come I haven't risen 5? And like, what are my competitors doing that I'm not doing? And if they seem at a loss, then it might be time to cut ties and go to somebody else.
And are there reasonable time frames? You know, it's like in my mind, right? So if you're using like, whether it's social media or SEO or whatever sort of digital marketing technique you're using, you know, a lot of times when you deal with either a client or a business, they're like, oh, you know, in a month you'll see, you know, progress, or it takes 6 months. Like, what is
Yeah.
a reasonable ballpark when someone says, hey, we're going to handle your marketing,
Yeah.
and someone comes back, what does that look like to you as a person, or vice versa?
That's also a really good question. My rule of thumb is to require people to give over a 6-month commitment, just because that's when you'll really start to see a pattern, right? You might see it in 3 months, and so you might be able to negotiate with me and say, like, you know, I really can't afford to commit to 6, but let's see how we do in 3. But I'm also going to try to manage your expectations if I only have 3 months. The other thing to consider is the competition for your business. If it's a really crowded market, let's say you're like a personal injury lawyer, the market is saturated, and so it's really competitive, and it's going to be really expensive for you to like cut through that really thick competition. If you're dorm storage, that's also actually going to be kind of crowded because the storage industry around here is also pretty competitive. But there are some industries, you know, that aren't very digitally savvy,
Sure.
and yeah, so you probably would have an easy time. If you ran a digital campaign, the cost per click would be stupid cheap. So.
I don't know.